a little later, and there'll be an honour guard there from the 1st Battalion Coldstream Guards, and of course we'll bring you that live as and when it happens. But before that, let's get some reaction to the press conference we just had and the comments in the Sun newspaper earlier today. Nigel Farage, former leader of the UK Independence Party, of course, joins me from Westminster. Mr Farage, good to have your company this afternoon. I saw an interview you did last night on the BBC, and there was a suggestion that you've been speaking to people in Mr Trump's entourage. Did you put him up to this?
This all gets exaggerated. I mean, look, I will admit that the language that was used in the Sun interview was very similar to the language that I've been using since the Chequers Agreement. But in a way, that's not surprising because, I felt pretty much betrayed by what she'd done. And I think the American administration genuinely upset. You see, having a free trade deal with the UK is really important to them. It's part of their foreign policy. And the idea that that had been held below the waterline, I think had made them very upset. Let me just tell you one thing. I do not need to convince Donald Trump to be a Eurosceptic. He and the rest of his team view the European Union as being at the very centre of the globalist movement, which in many ways was what Hillary Clinton was fighting for in the presidential election and they were fighting against. So on this charge that I put him up to it, not guilty.
OK, so we know, and I've already been saying this through the day, that what we get from President Trump when he's standing next to world leaders isn't necessarily how he feels deep down, or indeed the action he's going to be taking. So as he goes away from here this weekend, where do you think we are on this bilateral trade deal?
Almost nowhere. It was very interesting that Trump said again and again in that press conference, look, OK, the people voted for full independence. You must interpret that as you see. Brexit's up to you, but, we want to have a trade deal. And Mrs May, and of course, somebody must wind her up at the back, because she says we're taking back control of our laws, our monies, our borders, we're leaving the common fisheries policy, and we can have free trade deals around the world. And she says this stuff again and again and again. She says it by rote, and then when you examine the detail of any of this, you find she's frankly not telling the truth. Trump said, Mrs May has assured us we can have a trade deal and that's good. Frankly, he said it with very little sincerity, and I think he will go back to Washington, D.C., and that the administration will be, genuinely upset that the United Kingdom government has chosen a path of full regulatory alignment.
You and many of the Brexiteers were highly critical of the intervention we got from President Obama back in 2016 before the referendum, where he said we were going to be at the back of the queue. Are you not just slightly irritated that we have an American president undermining the British Prime Minister at a time when she's hosting him here in the UK?
Well, I guess Obama set the precedent. But there is a very big difference here. The difference being that Obama was trying to influence the way we voted in a national referendum. What Donald Trump came here to do, in many ways, was to defend American foreign policy. It is American foreign policy. It has been stated, actually quite publicly, ever since the inauguration, that they want to have a trade deal with the UK. The UK have constantly been reassuring them that once Brexit is dealt with, that will be okay. And clearly, as that had come seriously into doubt over the course of this week, he felt he was defending not only his own policy position, but I think it was a way of saying to the British government, you're letting us down.
But it was different, wasn't it, President Obama's intervention, because he was actually supporting a Prime Minister. Here he was undermining a Prime Minister, and even when he was patting her on the back at the press conference, he's standing next to her saying, you know what, I think that Boris Johnson's a terrific guy, he could be a terrific Prime Minister. The very guy who's pouring cold water on her Brexit plan.
Listen, it is, by any historical standards, a very remarkable intervention, a bombshell in many ways, what we got overnight at the heart of the British establishment. I know people are shocked and stunned by it. I have to tell you, I'm not particularly, because that is who Donald Trump is. He says it as he sees it. He breaks with all traditional conventions, but he is very consistent. He's backed Brexit from well before the referendum. He believes it's the right thing for this country. He was excited about the prospect of a trade deal, and that is now in very serious doubt. He doesn't waver.
You told me in Brussels a week ago that you were quite enjoying your retirement. You were brown, You were looking fitter. You said, oh, this political game, it's behind me.
Yeah.
And then on your programme LBC this week, you say, look, if this is the Brexit plan we're going to get, I'm coming back, I'm going to lead UKIP again. Is that right?
I was genuinely shocked by what came out of Chequers. You know, I understand that in any negotiation there's a degree of give and take, but not complete, total, abject surrender. And frankly, a betrayal. And it is a very strong word, but a betrayal not only of how people voted in the referendum, but of a general election manifesto headed up by Theresa May herself.
But your former party is in ruins at the moment.
If we get to the spring of next year, and Article 50 has been suspended, or if this betrayal has continued, then yes, I would very seriously consider chucking myself back into the front line of this. It is not, I can assure you, on my bucket list of things to do, but if I have to, I will.
Just very quickly, have you met him? Are you going to meet him while he's here?
No, I'm not. That would be, in diplomatic terms, even worse than the Sun front page. Downing Street made it clear, it was a red line in the protocol agreements, that he would not meet me on this trip. He's left Chequers with things on a slightly more conciliatory level. Just about the last thing he'll do now is meet me.
Nigel Farage, grateful for your time. Thank you very much indeed.
It made America realise that Britain was her real and true friend when they were hard up against it and wanted something, and that no one else in Europe was. They're a weak lot, some of them in Europe, you know. Weak, feeble.